your background before you came to Japan. What were you doing? And how did you get here? What was your first job?
Yeah, so to rewind a little bit, I came over in 2014 as a foreign exchange student with Tohoku University.
Okay.
And so if you know about your Japanese universities, it's one of those big ones. I mean, you didn't list it on your video, which I gotta admit I'm a little bit stiffed about, but
Okay.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, I
But
talked about well, that was the bottom.
March,
March.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the bottom minimum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you're above those, you're considered a good
Okay.
marriage partner.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say because I was like, I didn't see Tokyo University on that list, and I assume that one's okay.
Well, like Todai, Waseda, Keio, like the big what
Yeah, yeah,
Japanese
yeah,
would call like Japanese Ivy League.
yeah, yeah,
That's like the pinnacle, but the bare minimum is you had to go one of the March
yeah,
universities.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I went to Tohoku University as their what was it, information and intelligence systems
Okay.
for a year, and it was all right. So I did that, and I learned Japanese while I was there. Actually, that's also where I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so we got married. She got pregnant. We had a daughter, and then my visa ran out. So like we were living with my in-laws for 6 months, which
Oh.
I was technically not supposed to do. I was supposed to go
Mm.
back immediately, and so I did the illegal immigrant thing for a while,
You did-
which was
Must have been intense. Like
well,
if you get stopped by the cops, they ask for your passport or
well
something,
no,
right?
because my residence card was still good, right?
Oh, then you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
it was just like technically you're supposed to, but you don't have to,
Mm.
right? And so anyway, so I go back. I do my last year of university, and I gotta say, it is hard having to feed a wife and child while you
Mhm.
are doing the whole college thing.
Especially last year.
Oh yeah, yeah, because you take all the hardest classes, and
Yeah.
so I worked about 50 hours a week as a research assistant and teaching assistant and lab administrator. Yeah, lab administrator. That was
Mm.
it. And then I was also finishing up my course load. I thought I was going to do a doctorate, and then I decided that after I looked at the market, I was like, this seems like it's not really a good ROI there. So
Mm.
I went into industry, worked about a year and a half in the US at a couple companies. And then my wife was annoyed at living in the US. We gave it the try.
Yeah. And she's
She-
Japanese. Right?
She's Japanese, yeah.
okay.
And so it was like a monthly fight. Like,
Ooh.
there's some things that just happen every month. And
Yeah.
in our house, it was the I want to go back to Japan fight. And so
Mm.
I swear I graduated from the university I was at, Missouri S&T, which is kind of like mid-tier in the
Okay.
US, but they're good. They're good college for, good ROI on that.
And what was your degree in?
Computer science.
Okay.
I actually was doing electrical engineering as well, but like that just wasn't really interested in it at the time. I'd probably go back now, but it's just anyway. So I told her like after I graduated, we had moved to a little podunk town in Illinois where I was doing my first job, and she hated that too. And she was like, "Well, I wish you would have told me." I was like, "Okay, you could have had podunk town in Illinois or podunk town in Texas. Which would you have preferred? Because you obviously don't like this one."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, but the other one was a military contractor, and I don't even know if I would have got that job because you're a dirty foreigner." So,
Is that an issue when you apply for a government job?
oh, well, it
Your
depends on the
spouse is foreign?
yeah. Well, for the place I was going at, because they manufacture the computer systems that go into like drones
Oh.
and things like that. They're like, yeah, you have to go through a background check, which I did, and apparently I passed, which surprised me. I didn't think I would.
Why?
Well, it's just like you accumulate enough life experience, and you're sure that the NSA has a file on everybody, right?
I've never heard it explained as life experience. In my field, they call it a criminal record.
Well, I have never been processed. Only arrested
Oh.
once. Never been
Arrested
processed.
for what?
I'm not going to go into it
Okay,
because
no problem.
it's the sort of thing that I'm glad
It's okay.
it wasn't me. It was somebody else who was using my computer. But
Okay.
3 cop cars show up at your class, drag you out of your circuits to class, and just say, "Hey, look, you're coming with us."
Out of class.
Out of class. Yeah, they
That's got to be tense.
it was tense. Yeah, they put me in the back of a cop car, drove me back to my dorm, and I was like, "Hey, what's this about?" And it was like, "Oh, this is about the 20 gigabytes of illegal material you have on your computer." Like, what? Oh, they must have found all of the anime I downloaded.
The anime.
Of course,
It's always
of course,
the anime.
It's always the anime, right? No. It was somebody was using my machine to do illegal things.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
yeah, and so Anyway, so God, I've completely
You
taken
passed the background check
Yes,
for the
exactly.
NSA or something.
exactly, and
One of
so
those alphabet agencies. You passed.
Yeah. And so I come back and they were like, hey, look, so even if you pass, if we have questions about your wife because she's a foreign national, we won't give you the job. And so they were paying a little bit more,
Okay.
a little bit, but not much. And it was further away from my family, and so I just elected to do Illinois. But like when you're married, you're supposed to run that stuff by the boss before
By the
you
spouse.
just
You got to get a kitchen pass, right?
exactly. And so we lived there, and I made the promise to her. It was like a couple weeks after we moved in because she was crying about it, and I said, well, look, we will be back in Japan in 2 years. I promise you.
Okay.
Year and a half later, back in Japan.
There you go.
Because I was a consultant at the time, and so I was looking for jobs in Japan because I was aware of the promise I had made, and I also really didn't like consulting. It's not a fun industry to be in. Anyway, so this quantum computing startup was like, hey, look, we really like your resume. No idea why. And the guy's like, hey, you want to have a chat? And I was like, sure, we could talk. And so I talked to this guy, and it turns out he was the CEO of the company. And so he's like, hey, look, I really like your resume. You clearly have a lot of variable experience. You're clearly okay with just like digging in and starting. And so he's like, sure, I'll pay for you to move.
To Japan.
Yeah. And so
That's a sweet deal.
yeah, it was a sweet deal. So he paid, I think it was like, it ended up being about 2 million yen
Wow.
for me to move out here. And
So they paid for you to move.
Yeah, they
Is
did.
that normal?
It depends. Like, if you're a really skilled candidate, they might.
Okay.
And it depends on the company. This guy was just, he had a lot of money because he used to be a trader at like a big Dubai-based trading company. Until one day he was just like, actually, no, I want to do quantum computing. And so he just had like a big pile of cash. And so he was willing to pay for me to move over. And he didn't do this for anybody else because he hired like 4 other guys to be engineers at his company, and he didn't pay for any of them to move. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, well, they're not clearly as experienced as you are. And so that was kind of like the big thing. Like, if you want to be over here, you really have to have something to offer. Because I know I was trying repeatedly. Like, I tried Rakuten, I tried Amazon, I tried like the big companies, you know.
Sure.
I tried Nomura, you know. Hell, I tried.
Did you try SoftBank?
Yeah, I tried them too.
Okay.
And so when I was a little bit more junior, I had maybe coming out of college, I came out with like 2 years experience because, you know, just internships, failed startups, things like that. And so like I tried these companies, but, you know, especially when you're applying over here, one of the things they do is they look at if they recognize the name of the company you've worked at, or if the company you've worked at has some sort of link to Japan, it matters. So like if I had worked at, say, SoftBank or Mitsubishi Corp or Toyota or like even like a company that has a Tokyo branch, like Dow Chemicals or something, then it would have meant something, because it's like, oh, hey, big company, you know, for some reason that matters.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I hadn't worked at any big companies because I don't get along with that environment.
I get it. I get it.
I'm pretty sure the viewers do too. It's like,
Sure.
He's been talking for 5 minutes and we're pretty sure that he's committed 3 crimes already. So yeah.
Hopefully the statute of limitations is up on all these.
Anyway, but yeah, so they moved me over, and like we were building software for the IBM Q. Right, so that was IBM's.
What's that?
It was their top of the line quantum computer. It was really like in 2019, like quantum computing was kind of like the fad, right, in the tech world. And so everybody's like, quantum supremacy this, quantum supremacy that. Like, look, it's gonna break all the encryption everywhere. And you know, kind of like they're doing with AI now.
AI,
yeah.
It was like the buzzword at the time.
It
right?
was.
Okay.
It was. And then, you know, before that it was crypto, and then after that it was crypto again, and I'm sure next year it'll be crypto for a third time. But anyway, so we couldn't make a go of it because it turns out when you have 20 qubits, like that's enough to represent about 1 million separate states in an application, which sounds like a lot, but in actuality, like that's like a computer that was made in 1980. You know? And so like I was thinking about, what would you do with a computer that was made in 1980? Accounting software, right?
Sure.
Well, you know, like that's no good. You can already do that with a regular computer.
Yep.
It doesn't cost $9,000 an hour to run Excel, you know?
That's true.
And there were some companies that were actually making a good go of it, because there was one company that could do quantum encryption where you would send whatever you wanted to encrypt to them. Like it only worked. You had to have a hardware set up like between these 2 points, because it basically encrypted it with their quantum algorithm, sent it over the fiber to their server at the other end, and decrypted it. But it did mean that you could have sort of quantum secure communications over this, like, and it was just this corridor from New York to DC, right?
Okay. And who would be using this type of encryption? Like military or banking or
Like probably banking more than anything.
Okay.
But like I don't even know if they still exist because and that wasn't the sort of software we were building, because a lot of this stuff is like application specific. So there's and the computer we were working with was sort of more general.
Okay.
Anyway, so there was just no market for it. And like I figured this out in July of 19. And so I told my boss, hey, look, I don't think we can build an algorithm for this that's going to be profitable for this company. And he said, yeah, okay, I agree with you. So then we built a simulator.
Okay.
So we built a program that simulates a quantum computer, because
Wow.
you know, like if you're just trying to use one, like at the time it was $9,000 an hour. So if
Okay.
you wanted an hour of the IBM Q, you were writing basically a 5-figure check to IBM.
Ooh.
And you know, a lot of people didn't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so the value proposition was like, oh hey, you can pay us $30 a month and you can get like a simulator that's, you know, 99.9% the same as an IBM
Okay.
Q, you know? And so we went with that model, and I was the lead engineer on it, and I built the whole thing, essentially, because we started with 4 engineers, 2 of them couldn't cut it, and then the last guy went back to India and promptly just kind of stopped responding to emails. He came back and was like, I could do quantum computing and start my career in quantum computing, right? And he went back and like he just didn't have a good work ethic either, which you know, like it happens. So I left that company and went to work for my first Japanese firm, and that was Alphas, and they do like cloud-based invoicing.
Okay.
So this is kind of where we get into the bit about how Japan is generally behind the trend on technology and software.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you can watch the full podcast right up here, or you can see some more clips right about here.